Good morning, YouTube, or good night, depending on where you are. We have a very special guest on the show today, Steven from the Harvest Is Ready. But just getting to the meat of what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about lower thirds and overlays and things like that. So just tell us a little bit more.
Right. Okay. It can be, when you're doing, especially when you're coming to the worship part, when you're singing songs and stuff like that, and you want to do you normally in your church, you have your overhead projection, you have your PowerPoint presentation or whatever like that. And you may not have something professional like ProPresenter or anything like that accordingly. But what I want to show is that you can use free tools that are readily available that you can download that have no restrictions. They don't have watermarks on them. They're open source. And you know what open source is?
That means it's a community of developers that really share up. They it's like a forum.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because it's not freeware. This is not what you call freeware, because open source doesn't necessarily mean it is free. It just means the methodology and the thinking behind it means that you, as a community, you decide to work together to build a product. And it's usually led by one or two people, and other people will start contributing into it accordingly as they have time. But the advantage of open source is that usually most of them provide the source code free of charge, which means the programs are usually free or low cost. And they're usually of a high standard. And the two programs that I would recommend for, especially when your churches come into, you can use PowerPoint for these ideas, or you can use your existing presentation software that should all be the same way, that will end up with the same thing. So you don't need to go and buy something extra. You should better utilize what we're about to talk about with the current system that you have. If you use PowerPoint, this will work just the same way. If you use Worship Extreme or you use OpenLP, this will work exactly the same. I'm going to be using OpenLP because I predominantly just use open source solutions completely from the straight up. My operating system I use by choice is Linux, not Windows or Mac. So everything I do is designed to be at the lowest cost possible. And just because it's open source, it doesn't mean that it's low quality, because you will see this OBS that we're both using, is an example of free and open source software that works exceptionally well, that has got a community of plugins for the whole thing. So let's get into it over here. So you're gonna disappear. I'm gonna be on the screen, and we'll switch over to the. See, I've got the right one. Yes, I've got the right one. Okay, so what we've got here is I've got my second screen, and I'm going to open up, excuse the wonky vision for a while. I'm going to open up, where we're going to start. I'm going to start off with LibreOffice, okay? And I'm going to use Impress, which is similar to PowerPoint. So if you've used PowerPoint, this will be very, very familiar to you. So I'm just going to use a blank template. So what we want to do is that we want to make a simple way of actually converting your existing slides or presentations as a lower third. So what you need to do is you need to create a green screen. Okay, so you need to change the background in the settings that you want to do. You want to change the background, and you want to change the background to a color. But in this case, you want to change it to a bright green. Okay. Then all you need to do is that if you want to, whatever your slide is, you make sure it's in the bottom, the area that you want it in. We'll bring that down over here. And then you add some text. So are you getting me so far with this?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really quite straightforward. So all we're doing right now is just basically you'll just convert your existing slides that you've got and change it just to a default green background. Right? And you're going to position the thing. I'll remove the top one so we don't need that anymore. So we're just, oh no, it should be to God be the glory. Something like that. Okay. So we've now got one slide. We're on a green background with the text at the bottom. You can imagine you can format the text any way you like. That's not a big problem. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the settings, and I want to Okay, you can do it full screen if you've got a separate monitor, but I'm just going to do it in a window so that we can capture it easier. So you normally need to do this as you'll need to normally do this in a multi-monitor situation, or have some way to capture it into your OBS system. I'm using it on one system, so I'm just going to capture it in a window, and we're going to use a window capture in OBS to do that. So then if I start the slideshow, we have the window coming up in here. Okay, so now I'm going to move this back to the other way around. So I'm going to okay, so now I've swapped everything around. So I've got my what I want to display at the bottom of the screen, at the bottom of the text. Now, how do we overlay that? Well, what we want to do is we want to add a new window capture. So we go into OBS, we add a new source, and we'll take a new window capture. So I'm going to take a no screen capture, or you can use a window capture, whichever you prefer. On Linux, screen capture is the best way to go. So we're just going to call that lower. Okay. And then we're going to select our monitor. And then we can see we've got the basic presentation there.
Right.
Now we want to crop that out, and a quick and shortcut way that we can do that, we can crop it out by using the Alt key, the right, on my computer, it's the left Alt key, and then the arrows will change. And as you can see, a green line appears on your screen. And you can do the top. We want to bring that all the way down to the bottom there, because we only want that part at the bottom. And we want to bring the top up as well. So we're just cropping out what we need, right?
Right.
So here, it's still green. So how are we going to fix it up? We want to go on that new presentation that we've just done, this lower. We want to right click on it, and we want to go to filters here. And in the filters, we can add an effect. And one of the effects is a chroma key. And with the chroma key, we can select green. And as you can see, it's cleared out. We can adjust it to be more or less. Okay. And so you'll adjust it to how you find it's being good. So then you can just use your PowerPoint presentation as normal. Okay. So again, we should actually make that a little bit smaller. We can adjust it. And there we have our lower third accordingly. So if I was doing another slide, okay. So how's that? Clear as mud?
It's pretty good. It's very good.
Yeah.
I think that is a very good solution for a lot of different ministries. Especially ones that, don't have the budget.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of know-how. If you have lyrics, it's just easy to just copy and paste the lyrics, do the same thing, but just
So if you got PowerPoint
on each slide.
Yeah, PowerPoint, LibreOffice, change the backgrounds to a green background, screen capture it or window capture it, import it in, size it up to the size that you want it to the lower section, apply a chroma key, and you're basically done, right?
Wow.
So, and you can apply that same technique to things like OpenLP. And in fact, on my channel, there are videos that cover this in more and more details. So
definitely.
Yeah. So check out the green screen lower thirds. There's also an OpenLP lower thirds, which you can use a browser plugin to actually create more stylized lower thirds, which is pretty cool. It's got nice drop shadows and transition effects and everything like that. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I personally have watched that video on his channel, and I must say, you are really a gift to the body of Christ.
Yeah. And yeah, if you look for the videos, all the download links, and then in fact, I'll put, we can actually probably share some of the links down there so they can refer to them, have a good look into it, because what we just did here was just such a crash course in this particular thing, just to show you the basic setup of how to do the lower thirds using PowerPoint or something like that accordingly.
Right.
And this is just by the far the simplest way of doing it. Just slapping a green background on your PowerPoint slide, and then just using a screen capture to bring it into OBS. So yeah.